Hi everybody, I am Brian Mullins the Fox. Welcome to the first short-form commentary video for the month of March, or SFC 7 for short. Now, before I get to the main topic of this video, let me just say that 2025 so far is richer in content and its production value. I already got the future content lineup for 2026 ready, and I'm more than ready to do these short-form commentaries and rants up until mid to late April because, of course, I gotta prepare myself early for LFC 10 parts 1 through 4, and prepare to begin the production of the 3rd edition of the Roast Game Awareness Month come October. And with that out of the way, let's begin. Now, before we start with this linear timeline of the history of my fictional crushes, I didn't really have any long-lasting or long-term crushes on any character, fictional or otherwise, in my prepubescence and early portions of my teenage years. Bubby from The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack, voiced by Roz Ryan, and Marlene the Otter from The Penguins of Madagascar, voiced by Nicole Sullivan, never really changed me that much at all in an amorous way. But all of a sudden, all that changed on January 2nd, 2014. It dawned on me that I began my first ever long-term crush on a fictional character known as Sasha LaFleur. And this was after almost a week since I first watched All Dogs Go to Heaven 2, that shitty and good-for-nothing sequel that bastardized a Don Bluth franchise to hell and back. But even this had some years-long lead-up. Back in 2009, when I was living in Colorado Springs, Colorado, I was introduced to Netflix as a child. We watched stuff like The A-Team, Heathcliff, Supersized Me, and you guessed it, All Dogs Go to Heaven, the series. And for some innocuously odd fucking reason, I was made familiar with the show 2 or so episodes in, years before I fell in love with Sasha for the first time. If you couldn't guess any harder, my mother is, or rather was, a somewhat massive Sheena Easton fan. And I look back at all this feeling both nostalgic yet embarrassed at the same time. Wasn't my fault that I was also internet deprived and somewhat sex ed deprived until sometime later on, throughout 2014 and 15. Now, to go off on a random, non-tangent ramble, 2014 in general was a game and life changer for me. Went to live in California for the first time as a teen since I was very little for 3 months. Got to learn all my childhood memories and things that scared me when I was really young. Like that 1955 Tex Avery cartoon that's spelt as the following, SH as in sh, followed up by 4 dashes and 4 H's. Or Blue Cantrell song, Hit 'em Up style, Oops, from 2001. The one I apparently and mistakenly called the Wild McStyle song for some retarded reason. And to make things better, got more familiar with SpongeBob SquarePants production music. I'll go on a much longer rambly tangent for a completely different video from this, maybe in either April or September. Learned more about Sasha LaFleur, Sheena Easton's music throughout the years, got to watch more episodes of that series, and even went as far as to watch portions of An All Dogs Christmas Carol in 2019 during the production of my first full-length feature creepypasta movie, A Fact of Life for David. Now I get it. There's a big difference between having a great furry awakening and having a fictional crush carrying you through years of inspiration and content in a life full with misery, some malcontent, and continuous trust issues here and there. And with a few other inspirational characters, I became the furry I am at present on February 27th, 2018. And of course, it wasn't until January 2nd, 2021, when I fully grew out of all that and ended my first ever long-term crush on a fictional character, Sasha LaFleur. Sasha LaFleur was just an Adam Sandler movie-type pick-me-up, hoping she'll just belong someplace that never was her real home. After that point in 2021, I've changed a lot, and pretty much every bit of furry that I became back in 2014, 7 years of all that, it just ends as easily as it kicked off. Around that time, I was still mourning and coping over the death of my grandmother, and that copium didn't end until sometime in mid-April of that year. After all that, I began just writing songs on the fly, alongside with other instrumentals and soundtrap, yada yada yada, but I've already gone over as to how and why 2021 changed everything. Sometime in July of 2024, I fell into my second long-term fictional crush, but on Jen the Corsac Fox from Kung Fu Panda 4. Wow! From All Dogs Go to Heaven 2 to Kung Fu Panda 4, it's a strange coincidence that the one thing I have in common when it comes to having these fictional crushes is that the sequel is or has an even number in the title. From all the mistakes, moral shortcomings, and even moments of absolute filth and degeneracy in the rearview mirror that I've learned from, it's an absolute certainty that I will never do to Jen what my creepypasta fanfiction has done to Sasha, with Charlie being a predator that craves for Anne-Marie's flesh, alongside with other dogs. But that's neither here nor there. And with that shit out of the way, I'm Brian Mullins the Fox, signing out. Tune in next time where I rant about how this whole Jack the Ripper story and whole narrative turned out to be a total sham, because either you can't attach all the deaths and the victims to one person, or there was no real serial killer. It was just multiple Polish Jewish immigrants killing a bunch of prostitutes because of their religious beliefs. Bye.